Hey guys, Jasper here from the Uberclockers, and just by the way, so the gameplay you see in the background, yes, it's the Battlefield 4 campaign, one of the crappiest campaigns in PC gaming, but that was actually recorded when I was testing out my little ghetto-rigged PC VR headset. I'm using my iPhone 6s and a Google Cardboard, and I will show you guys that and show you how to do that by yourself in another video, which will be coming out soon. But right now, on the topic of VR, this is going to be a $550 or so VR-capable gaming rig. Guys, I have been surfing the internets for the past week, looking up all of the news I can on the RX 40, and I'm pretty excited. Like, this is gonna be great release. I'm planning on sitting at my computer with my Newegg page open, all my information ready to get that 480 when it comes out at midnight. So yeah, I've been looking up stuff all over YouTube, and I have found a few RX 480 PC builds, but none of them are really using the RX 480 as it was meant to be used, which is like a cheap, affordable solution to VR. Most of those builds are like $700 to $800. So what we're doing right now, this is a $550 VR-ready PC build. Alright, so before I tell you guys what the CPU in this build is, and if you've watched my other builds, it should be obvious what it is, but so I just wanted to clear up some stuff. This is not really related to VR or anything, but a lot of people who I've been talking to, they don't know that much about PCs. They think they do, and they're under the impression that the frequency of your CPU determines the performance, and that is definitely not true. What really determines it is instructions per cycle, or instructions per clock cycle, and that's how many instructions it can do per cycle. So if you had a CPU running at like 2.8 gigahertz and one at like 3.4, if the one with running at 2.8 had much higher instructions per clock cycle, it could potentially outperform that 3.4 gigahertz CPU. So I just wanted to clear that up, because I get really annoyed when people say stuff like that. Anyway, this is like the CPU I use in all of my kind of 600 to, well, 400, no, not 400, like 550 kind of to $700 builds. And this is the Intel Core i5 4460 3.2 gigahertz quad-core processor. And this is a beast quad-core processor. It's the lowest end in the Haswell lineup of i5s. And even though it's the lowest, that doesn't mean it's slow. It's a perfectly viable gaming CPU, and it can handle graphics cards probably up to the GTX 980. So I chose this just because it's like $170 right now, and that's really good for a quad-core i5 CPU. Now for the motherboard in this build, this is a motherboard I've used before in previous builds, and I actually used it when building my friend's the Coldest Fires PC, and it's an H81 motherboard, but it can support Haswell refresh CPUs because it comes with this BIOS update that allows it to do that. I have actually used the 4460 and this H81 MP33 together before, so no matter what PCPartPicker tells you, these two, the CPU and this motherboard, they work together fine. You're not gonna have to update the BIOS by yourself. So it's a really good value motherboard. That's it supports all Haswell refresh CPUs, and yeah, it's just really good value. So why don't we move on to the So for the memory, I chose Team Elite Plus 8GB DDR3 1600 memory. This is a single stick, which will actually offer less performance than a 8GB kit with two 4GB sticks, but it also leaves room for you to expand to maybe 16 gigabytes of memory if you really wanted to. So it's pretty cheap memory right now. It's like $25 for the 8GB kit, so that's why I chose it. So for the storage, this time, well, I didn't actually put in a SSD, as convenient as that might be. I have an SSD. It's a OCZ Arc 100, I think. But it's great. It boots up Windows 10 in no time. But I did live for a little while with using only this Western Digital Caviar Blue 1TB hard drive. And even though it was a hard drive, you know, it only didn't take too long to boot up Windows. Plus, I could just go get my snacks while it was booting up, and, you know, that was fine. So, but it's a really good value hard drive. It's reliable. It's a little bit less than $50, and it's great for mass storage. It's going to store your Steam library. Well, probably not your entire Steam library, but the games that aren't crappy in your Steam library. So why don't we just move on to the video card? Now, this video card is the real reason we are able to make this build like VR for less than $600, and this is the RX 480 4GB model, priced at only $200. Early benchmarks, we're not sure if these are real benchmarks or not, but they have shown that this card can at least outperform or match the R9 390 and GTX 970, and it might be even faster than the 390X, and it might be between the 390X and the 980. We don't really know that yet, because the benchmarks we've seen, they're not official. We don't really know if they're real, but what they've shown so far is this card could potentially be that way, but we know that this card is ready for VR, and for $200, this is great value. This is the 4GB model from Sapphire. The link will be in the description. And yeah, this is just when it releases tomorrow. The reason why I'm uploading this video today is because RX 480 releases tomorrow. This is going to be a great value card, probably the best value card on the market right now, unless you're going to buy some 780 Ti for like sub $100 on eBay. But yeah, why don't we just move on to the case? Now, for the case, I got the Rosewill FBM05 MicroATX mini tower case, and this is a smaller case, which is kind of nice. We've got a MicroATX motherboard, we've got a MicroATX case. The reason why I chose it is because the case is like $20, so it brings down the cost for this build, and that was the whole point of this build, to have a cheap PC that can handle VR. So PCPartPicker hasn't really told me if this case can support the 480, but I've been looking at pictures, and I'm pretty sure it can at least support a card as large as the 480. Why don't we move on to the power supply, the most exciting part? And welcome to the most exciting part. No, just kidding. This is like the boring part. Alright, so we're winding down. This is the EVGA 500 watt 80 plus bronze certified ATX power supply. Love EVGA power supplies. They are reliable. This one is $42.99. It's relatively cheap. 500 watts. That's going to be able to support the RX 480. 80 plus bronze certified. It's terrific. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. Remember to like and subscribe. Yeah, that's really all I have to say right now. So I'm really hyped for the RX 480 launch tomorrow.